Welcome to the Honest Man podcast, a discussion among men of various perspectives on subjects from the taboo to the typical. This is episode 22, and it's going to be a little bit of a different one, as this is actually going to be about our top 5 favorite games of all time. And you will notice once again that we are without Indy. You know, in the last episode, we mentioned that he and his wife just welcomed a son into the world, and so it's still very close to when that happened, and they are, you know, spending time with their son and getting things situated and all the things that come along with being a parent. But
being
hello,
selfish.
gentlemen. Yeah, being selfish. Exactly.
Just kidding. Hello.
Hi.
So
We are recording this on Super Bowl Sunday.
This is
During the Super Bowl.
During the Super Bowl.
That's how much we care about you guys.
Well, and I want to
Give me
point
content.
out here that I'm pretty sure we said that we were going to do it during the day. And then when I was like, what time? Sean just said 8. And I was like, oh. And then I was like, well, how about 7:30? And here we are.
I actually thought we agreed to do it next Friday, because we didn't want to do it during the Super Bowl. So that's what's in my calendar.
Chris, which one was it? Was it Friday or was it do it during the day on Sunday?
I was pretty sure we had agreed during the day today.
That's 2-1. Sean loses. Okay. So, top 5. And we'll be going in ascending order. So we're going to start with our 5th. We're going to go around. I'll start with Sean. I'll say, hey, what's your 5th game? And then he'll go and he'll explain the reasons why. And again, these are our favorite games. This isn't the best games of all time, broken down by some metric system that we're using. We are all going to have different reasons, probably different metrics on why we're doing this. So I just want to put that out there early so all the people who listen and, respond with, but, Elden Ring was game of the year, whatever it is, then, fair enough. But gentlemen, do you think we're ready to kick this thing off?
Yeah, let's fucking do it.
And I do want to verify real quick. I was wrong. I just checked the texts. It was today during the day.
Yeah. Okay. There we go. So, curveball, Chris, you're starting. But do we want to do where we're going to guess Chris's 5th before?
No, but that's going to be so... We're just going to be throwing random things out.
Oh, I know, but it's fun. So, I'd like to do it.
Sure, just throw out a name.
Okay.
Nope.
Your 5th favorite game
Diablo
of
2.
all time,
Nope.
no, is going to be World of Warcraft.
Nope.
Okay.
So do we want to start with honorable mentions or want to end with
No,
those?
we'll do those
Yeah,
at the
we'll
end.
do that at the end, yeah.
All right. So number 5, I actually have The Witcher 3.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's a pretty widely appreciated game for what it is.
Yeah.
And anyone who knows me knows that I tend to skip every cinematic in every video game ever. My least favorite part of playing any Final Fantasy game is that they have unskippable cutscenes. But The Witcher 3 is probably the only game that I've played where I've actually watched every cutscene. It's just a very good, story-driven game. The combat itself isn't the best that I've ever dealt with, but it's good enough to get me through the game.
Absolutely.
What difficulty did you play it on when you've played it? Like, do you do it on the where you have to be like super insane and know everything, or do you just play it on like the story?
No, I just play the normal mode. Anytime I'm playing any like that kind of game, like those RPG type games, my first playthrough is always just normal mode. I don't want to play the super easy story mode because then I don't feel like I'm actually accomplishing anything. But I also don't want to like sweat my nuts off.
I do that. I do the easy mode, the story mode.
Nah, I still want to feel a challenge. I want to get to the bosses and actually have to deal with it.
That's what. So when I'm
playing.
Sean,
most games these days, you can change the kind of the difficulty on the fly. So, like, I guess if you start it and it's too easy or too hard, you can change it. But I'm the kind of person, like, I'm just trying to relax on my couch and not be stressed out. Give me the easiest mode you've got in this game.
I mean, even on normal mode, it's not a particularly difficult game.
Witcher 3, no, not at all.
I didn't know that a lot of games let you just change it on the fly now. I actually didn't know that.
Yeah,
Was
a lot of them
yeah.
do now. A lot of the RPG type games.
Hogwarts Legacy, which is an open world RPG that I'm playing right now, is I'm playing it on normal because like I thought like do I want to just do story and be like, hey, I just want to experience it, but I was like, no, but then I was like, do I want to do hard? And I was like, not really. I don't want to sweat. I don't want to have to struggle and do, whatever. So I picked normal. And at first, through most of the parts of it that I've done so far, I've been like, man, this is kind of too easy. But there are a couple of spots so far where I've been like, oh my God, like this troll is difficult. So
yeah, and that's kind of what I want out of those games. I want like a pretty smooth game along the way, and then every once in a while I'll hit a boss fight that's like, I actually have to try a little bit. There's a reason I saved up this potion and shit like that.
Okay. So your number 5 is The Witcher. I've never finished it. I've never even gotten more than like maybe 2.5 hours in or something like that.
You've only got like 500 more hours to go.
Yeah, so I've barely done much in it, but I'm gonna go next instead of ending on me every round. And my 5th favorite game is Champions of Norath. The reasons behind this
such a
is
good one.
I enjoy the style of game with friends. So like it's not necessarily that I'm gonna run around and play Champions of Norath by myself, although I'm sure I have and probably would, but like the fun of it to me was high fantasy, picking your character, running around with your friends, collecting gear, and anytime you play a type of game like this, get your loot stolen by Chris. Like it's just one of those things that just it's fun, it's high fantasy, it's progression based. Like I just really enjoy the Champions of Norath.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite. It's funny I didn't even think of that game because it's been so long since I've like experienced it, and I've played so many games since then. But it is probably one of my favorite games of all time. I don't know that it's top 5, but it's up there.
Yeah, I wanted something in there that the reason I enjoyed it as much as I did was like sitting around the the PS2 with buddies and playing and stuff like that in a game that I also really enjoyed and thought was great. So that's why Champions of Norath is my 5th favorite game. Any thoughts on that, Chris?
I know Chris loves Champions of Norath.
I do love Champions of Norath. I love all those top-down action RPG type games. Which, we'll probably get to those on my list.
All right, Sean, 5th favorite game.
So for my 5th, I'm gonna go with Red Dead Redemption. So maybe our rules are gonna get bent a little bit. A lot of these games that are multiple, iterations, I'm gonna lump together. So Red Dead Redemption and Red Dead Redemption 2, because they're extremely similar. But I don't know that I've ever played a game. Well, there's probably only 2 other games on my list that I've put as much time into. I know even in Red Dead Redemption 2, I've put an obscene amount of time into. And I don't even remember. Red Dead Redemption 1 came out during a time in my life where I didn't have internet, and it was the only game I played for like 2 years. So I know I have an ungodly amount of time in that. I've done everything in that one. Red Dead Redemption 2 has taken a lot more. There's a lot of stuff. There's like Witcher 3 levels of content. And so that's it's just a beautiful game. It's one of those things where like I can sit and actually feel immersed in a video game. Like there's so much going on, like just walking down a path and coming across random things. Like I will literally sometimes like see something and be like, I'm gonna find a really pretty spot to view this from, and we'll just go ride my horse up a mountain just to take a picture. It's just one of those games that you can do stuff like that.
I've actually been finding myself getting like really immersed in Hogwarts Legacy, just because if the world is alive, the castle is alive. Like there's random people everywhere, and they change. The reactions change. The animals everywhere. The seasons. Like it's. So I feel that. I've never done Red Dead Redemption. I've actually never played Red Dead Redemption.
Neither have I.
But
recommend it.
Clearly, made your top 5. All right, moving on to 4. Sean, you're doubling up. What's your 4th favorite game of all time?
So this one's it's so my 4th favorite game. I'm gonna go with Mario Party, and specifically the reason for Mario Party is because it is one of the probably the only game I've ever played with my wife, because I've made her play quite a few over our decade plus together. That she enjoyed, and will actually sit and play, play the game versus just like, all right, I keep walking off a cliff. What am I doing wrong? And it's funny because I played a little bit of Mario Party like when I was younger, at like friends' house and stuff. I don't think we ever owned it.
No,
but
we were poor.
And it was always fun, but like it wasn't like something I played a lot. But I got it essentially to play with my wife, and we played a lot of it. Like I have this little you people listening won't be able to see, but I've got a little Bowser and Daisy little stuffed animals that I bought my wife because those are the characters we always play. I'm always Bowser and she's always Daisy. And so I've just developed, even in the short period of time since I've had whichever one it is that's out on the Switch, I don't know, I've just developed a whole lot of memories and a whole lot of kind of, I don't know, just kind of emotional ties to it. And so I felt like I had to put it up there because it's one of those things that, like, thinking about playing that with her genuinely makes me happy, and that's what video games are supposed to do. So,
well, that's cute.
Yeah. Mario Party's a good one because it's a game that literally anyone can play with you. Doesn't matter if they're like if they're a gamer or not.
Yeah.
Casual, hardcore, doesn't matter. It's a game everyone could just jump into and play.
Yeah,
and don't get me wrong, when it comes to
hand out stars.
Yeah, and that's the thing that gets me. Like, we'll play teams because you can play like as a team. So it'll be me and her versus like the AI. And then at the end, they're just throwing stars at the other team, and I'm like, I fought way too long and hard. I went through too much suffering to allow this to happen.
Yeah.
So there's still a competitive spirit in Mario Party, okay?
Always. Okay. I am going to say Chris. Fourth favorite game.
Can we keep guessing what Chris's games are?
Oh, yeah.
Diablo 2.
Go for it, number 4.
Diablo 2.
It is actually World of Warcraft as number 4.
Son of a... I'm going to be right eventually.
Yeah, if you just keep guessing the same game, Diablo 2 is probably on my list. But yeah, World of Warcraft, it's World of Warcraft. It's a game that, just regardless of how long it's been out, it's a game that eventually I'll always just start playing again.
Even if it takes a little convincing.
Yeah, it's awful. I hate myself for it sometimes.
He didn't want to.
I started playing when it came out. I started playing in vanilla, and then I played the Burning Crusade, and then I played Wrath of the Lich King, and then I skipped like 3 expansions. Played, skipped, and it's just a game that I always end up coming back to. And everyone can agree that it's not the most beautiful looking game. It's not the most polished gameplay wise, but it's just addicting.
I definitely would include it in my honorable mentions because, like you and Steven, like, it's one of those games we always bounce back to at some point. I don't know that a year goes by that we don't probably dip our toes into it at least once,
or bring up dipping our toes into
it. Or or at least like, hey, you guys want to play WoW? And we're all like, no, nah. And but it's kind of a comfort game, right? Like, there are times where I've never been like top tier at the game, or I didn't play a whole lot early. I played a little bit of vanilla, then I bought Burning Crusade, never played it once. I think Steven still has my box for it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
it's right there.
It's one of those games where like I'll like get that random feeling. It's like I really want to make a new undead, warlock or something, and I'm just wake up in the sepulcher and just play that. Like I couldn't tell you how many times I've rolled a new Forsaken. Like, it's just it's like going back to your favorite food or something. You know what I mean? It's just, I just go there and I'd be in my little spooky town doing spooky things, and it's always been like that for me.
I agree. Basically everything that you guys said. It's something I like to go back to. I have good memories of. It's a fun game. I like the progression games. I like the leveling up, the getting higher, item level, gear score, whatever you want to call it. So World of Warcraft is actually it's in my honorable mentions, which we'll get to, but
Whoa.
it is in there for me. It's actually not in my top 5. So, all right, my 4th is Fable, and similar to Sean's thing where he's combining them, I'm combining the first 2 because f that third
Good call.
one. But call. Yeah, the first 2, it was great story, just in general. The graphics at the time were fantastic. It was unique as well. Like you knew it was Fable when it was Fable. It wasn't just like its own. Like the graphics were part of the brand, I think. And being able to choose your path, which I think at that point maybe only KOTOR allowed you to do. At least games.
I don't think KOTOR was out yet.
Okay, I knew. I mean, maybe that one came out before the other, but that's the only other game I can think of around that time frame. Yeah. But the fact that you could pick your path, you could be evil or you could be good, and it actually impacted things. Like your character looked different. You could get them to look the way that you wanted them to. You grow horns. You could get a halo. People reacted to whether or not you were evil or good. All those sorts of things. I really, really liked that. And then of course it's a story game with progression, items, leveling, stuff like that. So Fable is up there for me, top 4.
No, I was wrong. Knights of the Old Republic apparently came out a year before Fable did.
Yeah,
2003 and 2004. I thought that Fable was a Xbox release game, but I guess I was off by a couple years.
Yeah,
but to no one's surprise, I had horns in Fable.
Me too.
I had a Halo.
I loved Fable. Like that was a game me and my brother both played a lot of.
Mm-hmm. That was great. Love Fable.
Yeah. It's one of those things that kind of, like, I know Knights of the Old Republic had that kind of aspect, but I think Fable, it played a much bigger role. It felt, at least visually, it felt like it made a bigger impact and it's been a long time since I played Knights of the Old Republic, so maybe I'm completely off base on this, but I feel like Fable was the thing that kind of like made it more in the forefront and kind of made it to the point where it is now, where like almost every kind of big open world RPG has that element in it.
Yep. I am curious. So Hogwarts Legacy also has where you can be kind of like dark, you can whatever, but there's no morality system and it doesn't really have much of an impact. So it's interesting because the story, I mean, if any of you are familiar with Harry Potter, is like the unforgivable curses. You use those, you're going to Azkaban, like plain and simple. But in this game, you can learn the 3 and like just slaughter people with Avada Kedavra, and it's just like that feels odd to me in terms of the lore and the whatever. And you're not gonna get horns, you're not gonna nothing like that. You don't start looking like Voldemort. So yeah, it's odd when you can do it and there's no effect, I guess is my point. That like there's no like you're not walking by somebody in Hogwarts and like, oh, that's the evil guy, because what are they gonna say? Oh, that's the guy who uses the unforgivable curses and slaughters people. Like, no, they're not gonna say that. So because it's like an E for everyone game or something. But yeah, okay. So who wants to go next for top 3?
Wait, it's E for everyone?
I think so.
And you can just like zap people?
I'll check. I thought somebody said it was E for everyone. Could be wrong.
Let me see.
Yeah, I think we're all looking right now. Hogwarts Legacy.
I don't know where to find it, so I'll leave it up to you guys.
I'm looking at the Steam page and I just...
T for teen.
T, yeah.
T for teen.
Fantasy, violence, blood language, and the use of alcohol.
Okay.
I was like...
That makes more sense.
Any game where you could just go around and, like, killing people, or, like, can actually kill people is probably not going to be E for everyone.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Somebody
but
has
I could
said
be
E
off.
for everyone, but it could have just been somebody saying something. I don't know. Whatever. Okay, so not E for everyone, but...
Yeah, it's got fantasy violence. Come on, man.
Yeah. All right. Third, who wants to state there? Oh, well, actually, let's guess Chris's.
Sure. You're not going to get this one.
Madden.
No, Madden. No, he's not.
Madden is not on my list or my honorable mentions.
What's that game that you played a lot of?
Isaac
Binding of
Isaac.
Ooh, no.
Well,
that was like Chris's filler.
Yeah, it's not a game that is one of my favorites.
It's like if
I
Chris
enjoy
is not,
it, but if I'm not doing anything and it's just I want to fill some time, it's a good game.
Yeah, it's like if we're playing games and we're in between games, Chris is playing Binding of Isaac. Other than that,
Yeah. So number 3 for me is Fallout New Vegas.
Okay.
The Fallout games in general were just good games. The first two significantly different from the last few, just based on how gaming has changed since then. But Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, those were easily the best games, and they're kind of along the same vein as The Witcher in the sense of they're story driven. It's more it's closer to the RPG type than The Witcher is. You have like the leveling system. You have all these skills and talents that you point into, and it also kind of follows the whole good versus evil type thing. Your story changes depending on how you made all your decisions earlier in the game, and your decisions affect a lot more than just yourself and just the little area you're in.
I've never played a Fallout game. Not one, which again should be a surprise. Basically, if it came out around the time of 2002 to 2005, there's a chance that I played it. From that point forward, I was in competitive and there was no going back, basically, unless it was like, an MMO or something.
Fallout New Vegas is the only game, I think, that I played on Xbox and then pirated on my PC and then bought it. So
yeah, I played Fallout 3. I didn't play Vegas. I did not play New Vegas.
Did you play? You played New Vegas when the first house we lived in together. Was that it?
Me?
Yeah. Or was this forever ago?
That's an older game.
It is an older game.
Maybe it was a different one, or maybe you had re-gotten it or something. Did you play a different Fallout, or maybe it was something? I swear you were playing something.
I might have been replaying it. I also might have been playing Fallout 4.
Yeah, it might have been that. I'm not sure.
I don't know. Vegas came out in 2010.
No, I mean we.
Well, I know that. I'm trying to. And then Fallout 4.
It's like
2015.
16? Yeah, 2015.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe it was something else, or maybe you were replaying something. Okay, either way. All right, Sean, what is your third? I'm going to take a guess on this. I'm going to say Dark Souls.
No.
Okay.
So and it's the thing, is like Dark Souls is one of my favorites, and it's an honorable mention as a series, but it's one of those that I've came to much later in life. So I feel like I wanted to get a lot of my nostalgic picks in my top 5, because some of these games, like, actually, I feel like had an effect on me as a person. And Command and Conquer Red Alert 2 was a game that I played an immense amount of, to the point where I would literally go into lobbies and just spend hours just doing random things. I don't know that I've ever played a game, specifically RTSs, but really anything other than like a handful of games, that I would just go and spend hours and hours of a time, like an entire day in, not doing what the game's intended to be done. Like, I would make an entire, say, for those who aren't familiar, it's an real-time strategy game. You build up little armies, and you send them to fight other armies, whatever. Well, I wanted to turn the game into a city-building game, so I would destroy my enemy except for one of their units, build walls around that unit, and to build a giant base. And this takes a long time. And so, like, you have to be careful, because, like, certain of your units can kill him through that wall. So you gotta make sure they don't get near him, so you can keep the game going. Or just doing random things, like building the Libyan army would put radioactive fields on the ground that would melt people. And you would just build an entire army that's around their base and do that. It just, so many random things you could do to just play the game in ways that it just wasn't intended. I just don't know that I've ever had a game that I did that much of it in. And I can remember so much about that game. Like, every unit's like what they sounded like, the music,
I can remember what the box looked like the dude on the front with the
like legit, like all of the if you've played the Command and Conquer games, they're not just like animated cutscenes. Like, there's real actors. Tim Curry was end it. Like the games were just super good. I had to put it in there. The whole Command and Conquer series, I've played a lot of them, enjoyed them, but that one in particular was the first one I think I don't even remember how I got it, honestly. But somehow I did, and it's one of my favorite of all time.
I would have never guessed that was going to be your top. I mean, I remember it. I remember you playing it. I remember playing it, but I would have never guessed that was your.
I sat there and I thought about it.
Game of all time.
I spent a lot of time. Again, our metrics are all going to be very different. Like I fought really like Dark Souls probably deserves to be in my top 3, but I didn't start playing Dark Souls until like 5 or 6 years ago. And given I've probably put as much time as some of the other games on my list combined into them, but. Yeah,
okay, so it should
I went more with nostalgia,
but it's not even in the top 5.
Okay. Like I said, I went off the nostalgic end on a lot of this.
Fair enough. Okay.
Talking all time.
So it's me, top 3.
Yeah.
All right. I want you guys to guess. What's my third?
Hold on.
Favorite game of all time?
I'm trying to think.
I already forgot. What was your 4th? Fable. Okay.
Fable.
So we had Champions of Norrath, we had Fable.
Is it an Elder Scrolls game?
You just have to take your guess. I'm not telling you anything. This is it. You have to take your guess.
I'm gonna.
Oh, sure, I'll say Oblivion.
Okay. Oblivion.
I don't know. Did you play a lot of Oblivion?
No.
I did.
No, I did not.
I'm gonna stay off that bent. I can't stay off the bent. I don't know if you've played any other games ever in your life. Morrowind.
It's Diablo 2. Like
that's number. I thought that would be 2. I thought that would be number 2.
So
I know what number 1 is.
My top 3 is pretty. I can see why you would expect 2, and I do think my second and third are probably interchangeable. I don't know about my top 1, but my second and third are probably interchangeable. But Diablo 2 had me hooked. I love that game.
Everybody hooked.
Yeah, I mean, it really, but I mean, staying up. And the thing is, it was weird because you would stay up and you do it, but you were just doing the same thing, right? You're just doing bail runs. You're just doing but the replayability of it was fantastic. The fact that it was a game where, it was the random generation of maps and stuff. So you'd go in, you'd have to find your way around, you'd do all these things. You're collecting progression. You're trying
where you got lucky and the guy you partied with had map packs.
Yeah, and then you just took you right there, but you're trying to get your runes, create your Shakos, your Enigmas, like all these sorts of things. Just made it so fun. Collecting ears, the BattleNet chat, just going in there and talking. It was fun. And again, you could play with other people, so you built friendships. Some of the first games I think that I really got into where there was that sort of thing, where you had your friends list and all that. But the replayability, the story, the darkness of it, which I mean, it wasn't there as much in Diablo 3. Apparently, they're trying to bring it back in Diablo 4. But Diablo 1 met it with its darkness for sure. Diablo 1 was pretty dark, but Diablo 2 was fantastic. I really, really enjoyed it. And they had the cutscenes and stuff too. The progression through the acts, it was all really good.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. So, number 2, Sean.
Diablo. I lumped together 2 and 1. So some of my earliest memories of real video games is watching Sandy play freaking Diablo 1. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And
Yep.
Just so enthralled with this game, just man, that looks so cool. And then years later, we didn't really play much Diablo 1. Well, no, we played Diablo 1 before Diablo 2, I believe. But not a whole lot. Diablo 2 obviously. Diablo 2 was probably the first time we became hardcore gamers.
Yeah.
I would say. I've since gone back, obviously with Diablo 2, the remaster, we played a bit of that. But I've probably played more OG Diablo in the past couple years than the other one. I've done countless playthroughs of the OG Diablo because I don't know, man, it's just so simple and in such a good game, and being the edgelord I am, I mean, there's not a lot of more Satan-y, dark, evil games out there than that, and so it has always spoken to me in so many ways, and so I mean, it had to be on the list.
Yeah, There it is. All right, Chris. Number 3.
Number 2.
Number two.
So number 2, I kind of cheated with, right?
Wow.
So number 2, I have Baldur's Gate.
Oh, you lump them all up in there, don't you? Or the whole type of game? Are you doing like?
Did you say that like the isometric and the
So like
and the over the
let me
alliance?
Explain. So like I'm talking, the isometrics, right? But also Dark Alliance. But also similar games to Dark Alliance.
I had a feeling.
I allow it.
And Dungeons and Dragons Heroes, and
I
basically on my list, I put Baldur's Gate. Parentheses, all Dungeons and Dragons games. Because I mean, the isometric game was easily one of the best games I've ever played on PC. It's hard. It's devastatingly hard when you're young and you're trying to get into this game. And even now, it's not an easy game to get through. But it was my first encounter with Dungeons and Dragons when I was younger, and I had no idea what it really was. So that kind of started me on that path to eventually playing real Dungeons and Dragons and seeking out other games with that kind of play style to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, we talked about Champions of Norath, so it's a lot of the similar stuff that you get with the Dark Alliance games, and Dungeons and Dragons Heroes is pretty much the same thing. So the isometric games were great for me getting into it. It's a single player game, and I just got to play and learn and figure it all out. And then all the top down action RPG type games, it just, it's we talked about it. It's just something you remember playing with friends and just doing it.
Yeah,
for that.
No, I feel you on that. Fun fact: I had bought the original box for Baldur's Gate on PC. Played it, I don't know, 30 minutes. Was like, this is incredibly difficult, and never played it again.
Such a hard game.
I had no idea what was going on. But yeah, man. I mean, Dark Alliance is one of my favorite games of all time. I remember playing that with pretty much everybody I cared about as a child. It's just such a good game. Lots of memories. Also very hard when you go back to it and as an adult. You're like, how did I get through this? Like, these sewers are actually kind of tough, bro. Like, I tried, so I got it, and I was, they have it on Xbox. I bought it on there, and I was like, I can play this with my wife, because she played Diablo 3 with me. Actually, we went through the entire Diablo 3 game. But, so I was like, well, we'll play this. Bro, the rats was beating our ass. Like, it was bad. And then you get this freaking, the kobolds, and then what's his, God, I can't remember my Dungeons & Dragons monsters. But anyways, you know what I'm talking about. Also, probably one of the first games in my memory that had some boob jiggle physics. Because that bartender boy. Bro.
Me and Chris played through the Dark Alliance games not that long ago.
Yeah,
this
I remember
was legit,
that.
Probably like within the last 6 months. Maybe over 6 months. Maybe it was a year or whatever. But yeah, when we went down into those sewers, dude. Like,
it's a rude awakening.
Yeah, we were like, dude, was it this hard? Like, was it really this hard? Like, yeah.
And that's what's crazy.
We played Dark Alliance 2 first. And Dark Alliance 2 is fine. It's not that difficult. And then we decided, you know what, let's just finish it out. Let's go back and play Dark Alliance 1 again. And from the minute we walked into the basement, we were like, this fucking sucks, bro. This is so hard.
Yeah, we got wiped and sitting back like so many times in a row. It was actually brutal. Good time.
Yeah, that whole playthrough was just the wizard being infinitely better than every other class in the game until the final boss.
Where you can't do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, you've been pretty goated this whole time, and now you can't do anything. You are useless. It's like, nice. So, Sean, did you already do your number 2?
Yes.
No.
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 Yeah, it was Diablo.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. We would just pass it because you're like same thing. Okay, so we are to our number ones.
No, it's your number 2.
My number 2.
Come on, bro.
My bad. All right, do you guys want to guess this one? Come on. This should.
Should it?
Easy. Yeah.
It should.
It should be pretty easy. I would say this one was being.
Oh, Age of Conan.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'll say this one
Easy
could be interchangeable with Diablo 2. Like I could have easily seen myself saying Diablo 2 was second. And this one was
such
third.
a good game. That's an honorable mention for me, 100%.
Yeah. So Age of Conan was. So I've always been into MMORPGs, but I never fully stuck with one. By the time this game came out, I had probably played 4 of them at least, 4 different ones. I think Guild Wars, WoW, EverQuest, maybe EverQuest 2. No, EverQuest 2, I'm pretty sure. But this was the first one that I got so into that I played it all the time. I hit max level in. Out of all the times I had played WoW, all the time, whatever, I had, even in Guild Wars, the max level was like 20, and I only got to like level 18, and I just stopped. So Age of Conan was the first one that really hooked me and made me get max level in. The graphics for that time were phenomenal.
They're still pretty good.
They still kind of hold up. Like I think that like if it was a scale of 1 to 10 as to how well they held up, they're probably down to like the 6 now. But up until a couple years ago, they were sitting at a 7 or an 8 being, and this game came out in 2009. So 2008. They held up really, really well. The environment, fantastic. The music, some of the best in-game music ever. You're going around, you hear that lady, oh, just in the freaking mountains over, and you're just like, this is amazing. It was the first one I ever did raids in. So being in that like environment where you got people and you're like coordinating things, and you know, it was fantastic. I loved Age of Conan. It changed the game for me because then I went and got like, you know, now I've done max level and WoW and whatnot. So Age of Conan, number 2 all-time favorite games.
Yeah, I didn't do the in-game stuff like Steven did, but I also played a lot of Age of Conan, and I have a lot of very distinct and fond memories of that game. I would still say it is in my opinion, the best MMO. If they just relaunched it today, they just put a new name on it and said, hey, here's a brand new MMO. Didn't change anything. Other than the stabilization and stuff they've done, you'd have a hit.
And a lot of people say that. A lot of people, every time a game MMO drops and like, you know, Facebook, oh, if this came out with its current state, it would whatever, but it's already, but I actually do believe that with Age of Conan. I think it had all the right things. And also, and I need to mention this, the combat.
Oh, yeah.
So it was, you know, tab target. It was basing in that regard, but it had that little bit of a combo system to it where you'd, you know, once you leveled up this ability, you'd put on your bar, you'd press 2. But after you press 2, you needed to hit like diagonal left arrow, which would be like your Q, and then you needed to hit like your down, and then you needed to hit your like diagonal right. And as you did that, it was each a tier to that ability that would build up to like dealing the most damage. And you could figure out ways or the best combinations where you'd stop before the third press because you could get more damage. You combine it with starting a new ability, and there was just some depth to it. The PvP was fun. So I'm a big fan of that because I like active games. And so if it's basic tab targeting, like you hit 1 and then you hit 2 and then you hit 3 and it's all separate because you're doing a cast or whatever, not into it as much. Whereas this one, there were steps to it, and there was more like, there was a skill there that you could actually get if you managed to remember all your things in the right orders and things. So love it. Absolutely love it.
And I think ganking in that game was probably the funnest.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember, what is that, whatever the name of that sand, that beach that you would go to like the first, like kind of way out of town, and you just ganked that boat all day, bro.
That place got brutal.
Like, but people, like, it was also one of those games where, like, because you could communicate with people. It's not like WoW, you know, where it's like you speak different languages in game. But like, you could legitimately, like, people weren't all that salty. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, there was communication. I don't know. It was just one of those things, man.
Well, PvP was more regular back then. Like,
oh yeah,
absolutely. Any thoughts on that one there, Chris?
Not really. I've played very little Age of Conan.
You guys remember we found
that
those
story?
People?
Yeah.
We found those people over there. Oh man.
Role playing.
Yeah, we found
erotic role
sexual act in the thing. We just like rolled up to like some little river behind like a hill. We were just like, what are you guys doing? And they're just like naked and you know, BJs and stuff. So all right. So that's my number 2. And we're hitting number ones. So we're gonna have Chris go first. I'm gonna call Diablo.
Diablo 2.
I want to hit my honorable mentions before we hit one.
That's a
Okay.
good point. Yeah,
So I'm going to do that instead. So I actually have 4 of them. So I'm just going to rattle them off real quick. Call of Duty, just because of how much I've played it and how long I've played it. Destiny 2, for pretty much the same reason. Half-Life. It was such a unique game for what it was at the time. And Divinity Original Sin.
Is that the one that you played with
Roland, Cameron, Charles.
Yep.
all those guys? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So those are my 4 honorable mentions, and my
I bought
number
that
1
game.
is Diablo 2.
And
We've gone through it already, so I feel like I don't have to explain a whole lot about it. But the game is older than probably a lot of people that listen to this. So, and I'll always go back to it because it's easy to get back into. And it's one of those games where you can beat the game on the hardest difficulty and still have so much left to do before your character is like actually good and just done. There's levels to it. Yeah. You can beat the game with shit gear and poorly optimized skills, but then it just gets so much easier if you do it the right way. It's also the first game I ever played online that introduced me to scammers, so that was cool too.
Yeah, I got hit by that too, bro.
Plenty
My
of
poor
that.
druid had that green set, took it all.
Yeah, Diablo 2. I remember growing up, I would spend maybe a week or so every summer with my cousins in North Carolina. And so between me and my 2 cousins, we would decide, you know what, we're going to play Diablo 2 all day today. And we would each set a timer. We would get 1 hour on the computer at a time. And we would just go 1 hour at a time playing Diablo, just going through and trying to level up.
The same character?
No, different characters, different accounts, everything.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say like
your hour's out. Log out. Log out.
My turn. Wow. Okay. Sean, let's hear your number 1.
All right. I'm gonna go through my honorable mentions.
Yeah, your honorable mentions.
We already discussed Dark Souls. Dark Souls, the entire series, but in particular Dark Souls 3, and I'll extend it to all FromSoft games, so Elden Ring, Sekiro, so on and so forth. Dark Souls 3 in particular is one of those games that I could go back and play over and over and over again, and I've done it. Like, if I'm in the mood to play a FromSoft game and I play one and I'm like, man, this part's kind of hard. Fuck it, I'm just gonna go play Dark Souls 3. Like, I immensely love that game. It should be in my top 5. I already explained that, but it's they're just great. I recommend everybody play them. Call of Duty and when I say this, same thing as Chris, but also directly referencing Modern Warfare, the Call of Duty 4, and Halo 2, because they shaped, I think they shaped most people our ages' relationship with video game. Like, they changed so much about kind of, it was kind of like the next step in gaming to me, especially, obviously FPS gaming, because before that it was mostly arena shooters and things like that. But like those games had such a huge impact, and we poured, just a lifetime of hours into them. So I feel like we had to mention those. 2 more modern example. One that's really weird. Doki Doki Literature Club. I don't want to. It's one of the darker games that anyone could ever play. I do not recommend it for the faint of heart or those who don't like dealing with mental illness. But if you get through it and get to it, the creativity they went designing this game, where you have to go into your computer, and spoiler alert, you can mute the next 15 seconds, but you have to go into your computer and actually delete files in the game's files to move it forward and stuff like that. Like, it took it to a very different level from a game that was extremely basic and simple at the set out. It's really very interesting. And then Hades is another one that I have to mention. Probably one of the best games I ever played. Extremely simple in the way it's played, but the insane amount of depth, the insane amount of hours you can put. It's like Diablo, where you have that infinite replayability. Except for different than Diablo is like you could put the same amount of time that it took you to get through all the levels of hell and still maybe not be finished with the storyline of Hades and like getting every little thing unlocked and all that kind of stuff. So it's one of those another game that I think is highly worth it for everybody to play. And no surprise to Steven, my number one is Morrowind. Morrowind is like the first game where I was like hooked. You know, I feel like that was the game that made me. I mean, I was obviously a nerd beforehand, but I don't know if I ever nerded out on anything as much as I did that game. It was such, to me, a groundbreaking game, an open world, high fantasy game where you just picked up whatever weapon you want and did stuff. You know, it wasn't like, hey, here's your weapon. This is what you get. You know, where a lot of kind of more linear games. It was just like, nah, man, just build your character however you want. Even from the set out, like, create your own class if you want to. Call it whatever you want. You're not tied into being a bard or a wizard or a sorcerer or a fighter. Like, if you want to name your class a shoemaker and then just go around and whatever, like, it was everything. And then at the time, I remember getting off that boat in Saint Denis for the first time and looking at the water and being like, oh my god, they did it. They made realistic water. This is the most realistic game I've ever seen. Like, we've advanced so far as a species. And then looking back at it now, and they're like, damn, that shit's still good, though.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, water was one of the things that got better and better looking very quickly, and now it's just kind of like the same.
Yeah, but yeah, man, I mean, I put an ungodly amount of hours into a game that, you just play by yourself, and I have a lot of memories. Steven watched me play that a lot.
I think that's a game that I watched him play more than I played myself. And I played it, and I enjoyed it, and I had my own little role play in it and stuff, but like I definitely watched him play it. I could just sit there on the couch.
And that's one of those games where I played and just an uncountable amount of characters. Because every time I had an idea for something different I wanted to do, I would go do it. It's like, oh, I want to be like kind of a wizard. I'm going to use illusion spells, but I'm going to beat people with a hammer. And like then I'd go make that character, and I'd go in the game and I'd do that. I know all the little tricks, and get these items quick, like all the hidden items, because I had like the book that you could buy, like back in the day where, you couldn't just quickly go and Google, like, where's the Daedric face of God, or fear, or death, whatever.
My guide.
You had to buy an actual paper guide, and then go and finding all of those hidden items. I still remember where to find most of them. And it was actually the first game that ever made me cry. Not because of something that happened in the game, but because I, one day I had my main character, who I'm sure his name was Malice. He was an orc, barbarian, and he was like level 80 something. I mean, I'd beaten the game with him, done everything you could do, just wandering the world. And I remember it was about dusk, and my mom was making me go outside, and I went to go save a different character. I was playing a different character, and I clicked on Malice, and I hit save, and I panicked, and I turned off the Xbox, and I prayed for the first time in my life, and I turned it back on, and I saw my save file there, and it was nothing but strange characters and all fucking warped and shit. And when I clicked on it, it said the game file could not be loaded, and I physically broke down and cried in my mom's living room.
Video games, man.
So, I did want to throw out a couple more honorable mentions.
Make it quick.
Do you remember that Jurassic Park game on the Sega?
I think so.
That was hard as shit. I don't know why that game is so imprinted in my brain. I'm just gonna shout it out just because of that. But
I barely remember this game, but goddamn.
Golden Axe was it 2? Axe?
Yeah, on the Genesis.
Yeah.
Genesis, playing the shit out of that with my brother, never getting far at all in that game, but playing it so. All of the Gauntlet Legends.
Yeah, Gauntlet.
Yeah.
And last but not least, Sea of Thieves. I've had some of the most fun doing anything I ever did in my life in Sea of Thieves. You know, with Chris and Charles and Cameron. And it's one of those games where like I got to the end game. You know, I'm a pirate legend in that game. Done a bunch of the other stuff. You know, I played with. I mean, I enjoyed even when we played with Steven, even though he did not like that game at all. One of my favorite stories that I'm not gonna. One of my favorite stories that I tell about video games. I'm not gonna go to here, but with Sarah and playing with her for the first time. And it's just one of those games that I think, at least to their graphical level and stuff like that, if you actually look at the water in that game, they're above and beyond everything else. Which makes sense because you spend so much time on it. But the detail and the character of that water is insane. The graphics are fun. And everything about the game is very fun. And I've had a lot of time, or a lot of good times playing it. So I had to shout that one out. And I'm done.
Okay. So I'm going to start with my honorable mentions, which I have quite a few of as well. Halo 1 and 2 were bigger to me. To me, I think I enjoy those more than any of the Call of Duty. So Call of Duty doesn't make my honorable mentions list, but Halo 1 and 2, I remember playing like zombies are infected on that freaking circular map and like sealing off the doors. They're like, get up. We're all jumping on top of stuff. And dude's trying to, it was just amazing memories.
You remember when we made that game type where like someone was it was like Predator essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like something we created and we would just sit in the house and like someone was invisible and we have to kill the other player.
Yeah.
I thought of that, yeah.
There were Halo 1 and 2 were fantastic. Morrowind is on my honorable mentions. Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance, which Chris mentioned, on my honorable mentions. That would be, both of them. World of Warcraft, honorable mentions. Apex Legends is in my honorable mentions. I love the gunplay and mechanics. It's fantastic. And then Knights of the Old Republic and Dungeons & Dragons Heroes. So, and some of these have been mentioned by others, so not going to go into much detail on it, but those are up there for me.
Is Knights of the Old Republic like the last like full-on RPG you played like a lot of?
Probably. Probably. Well, no, because didn't you say KOTOR came out before?
Well,
Fable?
yeah, I
So,
guess,
like,
but like
games, Fable 1 and 2.
All right.
Yeah. But
so between that and Hogwarts Legacy, it's been nothing but like, false starts.
Yeah, well, I played some Elden Ring, right? I put a decent amount of time into Elden Ring. I didn't get that far. I didn't get anywhere close to the amount of time like you did or something. But I mean, I did like 3 of the main story bosses and stuff like that. There's just not enough direction in that game for me. So
yeah,
I just would do something. I don't know where to go next. I don't know what to do next. The only thing that I can think of possibly doing, I'm not good enough to do. So like, I don't know where to go. So, and then my number one game of all time. You guys want to guess?
Raid Shadow Legends.
Okay, so neither one of those guesses is correct. I'm going to give you one more try.
Counter-Strike Global Offensive.
Not
Counter-Strike Condition Zero.
Okay, CC was bomb. Like, for real. But I was going to say CS as a whole. I'm not going to pick like 1.6, Global Offensive, whatever. 1.6 and Global Offensive are definitely the top, but this is a game where I can quite literally say it changed my life. Like, it truly did. So, I remember the first memories of it and seeing Roland play it in his house across the street. We'd go over and I'd watch him play it on his computer, and then it progressed into we'd play it on the multiple computers his parents had in his garage. And this is like early 2000, like 2001, 2002, 2003. And so we'd play Counter-Strike in the garage. And then that turned into I'd go home and I'd play Delta Force 2 because that's all I could play, which is probably should be in my honorable mentions.
Oh, absolutely, bro. You killed some Delta Force 2. That was your first like social game.
Yeah, and full on social. I was in like I think we called it a clan and like the whole 9 yards. But did that, so it has all the nostalgia and it's simple and yet really deep in how it can be played in the different strategies and all that stuff. It has a very high skill ceiling. And, the competitive aspect and playing in tournaments and leagues and all that stuff. And then eventually that's the reason I got my career started in esports. And I've gotten to travel to places like London and, freaking California and all over the place. Boston, Atlanta. It sent me around. I got to travel. It's the reason I got my start. It's absolutely fantastic. It has stood the test of time. It's been top 2 most or largest competitive esports titles for 20 years. Over 20 years now. It has.
Steven's love of Counter-Strike is the reason I've been to the city of Boston.
Yeah. So that's it. Counter-Strike is the number 1 greatest game of all time. Wow. All right. Were there so I guess before we close it up, were there any surprises? What was something that surprised you guys the most? I'll start, and I'm just going to say Sean not having Dark Souls on there, and then saying this should be in my top 3, but it didn't even make the top 5.
So here's the messed up thing. Is while making the list, it never popped up. It never entered my brain. And the funny thing is, I played Dark Souls 3 earlier today.
Yeah, so that's the surprise to me. So I'll leave it that one. There might be another one, but just to start, what about you, Sean and Chris? Any surprises from somebody's?
I think your Fable one kind of hit me kind of out of left field, but it makes sense. It makes sense. It's just one I just didn't expect to hear.
Yeah, it surprised me because I forgot about Fable.
Yeah. Well, they did that remaster or a remake or something not that long ago that I played a little bit of it and it was meh.
I played some of it on stream.
I put a lot of time into Fable 2.
Yeah.
I don't even think I played Fable 2. I just played the first one.
I played a lot of Fable
2 was really good as well. 3 was the one where it was what? We're all British and stuff.
Yeah, you know what we should have all probably, at least me and Steven should have had on our list is probably Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask.
I didn't even think about Yeah,
Ocarina of Time definitely should have been in there.
Should have been.
Ocarina of Time, I was heavy in. Steven played a lot of Majora's Mask. You know what else should be on Steven's list? Is Final Fantasy 7 and 10.
I do when we were sitting here and you said earlier in the thing, you were Chris, you were I know the Final Fantasy, the cutscenes are too long, and I was like, oh,
Steven played a whole lot of fun. It's I remember watching him play 7 a lot, but 10.
I played the crap out of
He loved 10
hard at Final Fantasy 10. I loved it. I mean, that was another one that just I felt so connected and immersed and I cared about the characters. I cared about in the freaking games you could play in the game. It was amazing. Blitzball, yeah, just absolutely fantastic. Again, that's one if I spent even more time thinking about a list, having to fight for what I was going to swap in and out. Maybe Fable moves out and Final Fantasy 10 goes in, but that's still hard for me because they're just different places. Ocarina of Time, I'm what am I dropping for that? Chambers of Norath, maybe? Or Majora's Mask rather, but either one, I can picture songs. I can literally be oh, this song from Green Day makes me think of, the whatever spot in Ocarina of Time. And then I'm oh, the water temple. That's Papa Roach. I can literally assign and be I remember listening to that over and over at this part. So many amazing games there, but okay.
Yeah, so that you remember the Mudvayne album, The End of All Things to Come?
Sure.
That and Halo completely linked in my brain forever.
Mm-hmm.
They came out the same year, and I had, we had Halo, and I bought that album. That was the Mudvayne album you liked.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you made me think of that when you said it.
There's World So Cold from Mudvayne.
Yeah, that's that album.
That always connects me to Counter-Strike because when Roland was going to make me a Counter-Strike montage thing.
Why don't we still do that, bro?
It was 17 HP going across the screen in red letters, and it was what? It was opening up the song. And yeah. So we never got far. I think we got to the first "Fever Inside the Storm." That was it. And then the video was over. He never finished editing that. So yeah.
We need to come back to making video montages.
That was. It's just not what it used to be.
It was so cool back in the day.
Back then, I don't think now it's all rap songs and stuff, I think. But back then it was always just rock. Alternative or heavy rock was all the montage and highlight reels and frag videos. That's all it was, but not so much.
What's all trick shots now?
Yeah. Chris, any
we sound old.
Any surprises?
Oh, not really. I mean, like I said, just Fable, because it didn't come into my head.
Okay.
But, I mean, I guess the Command and Conquer was kind of threw me off a little bit.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, that one surprised me. But I said that earlier. I also want to let everybody know who was listening. You didn't, if it did get through, because I'm not sure. If you just heard Rihanna, It's because I clicked the volume button on the Super Bowl on the other screen, and I didn't even think about it. I didn't hear it. I hit it. Well, no, you guys wouldn't hear it, but I mean in the recording. Like when people are listening to this, you might have just heard "Only Girl in the World." And they're like, "What?"
Oh, we're getting sued.
Yeah, DMCA right there.
It's our last episode.
Yeah. So if you didn't hear it, well then luckily it didn't go through. Maybe I have that source turned off. I'm pretty sure I don't though, and you definitely heard that. So just want to let you guys know that is any last thoughts on games? I feel like as we've talked about it at the end, there's been so many who went, oh no.
Well, cause it's one of those things. Like if you're just sitting and trying to think of something, you're like, okay, I got the couple, a couple that come straight to mind. But then like when you sit and you talk about it with a couple friends and deep dive into it and hear their things. Bro, I've thought of a whole bunch more.
Yeah.
But, we could sit here all day. Like, the more I mention, the more you're going to remember. And then Chris is going to mention something, the more he's going to remember. And it's just going to be one of those things.
But are we happy with the list? I'm sorry, Chris. Go ahead.
I just want to say that he's not here, but Indy's favorite game is Uncharted.
Yeah, Uncharted. His 1 through 5, Uncharted.
Uncharted.
Yeah, I don't know any of the other games he likes. GTA is in there somewhere. And
I think Soul Calibur is definitely going to be in there.
Okay,
he's
so
a big
top
Soul
3
Calibur
Uncharted,
guy.
and then Soul Calibur, GTA.
There we
go.
He
likes racing games a lot. There's got to be a racing game.
Honorable mention.
Yeah. Honorable mention all racing games.
All right. Any final thoughts about games? I just think it's cool, like how many that we have these fond memories of, and that like we bring them up, and it's like, oh, remember this, remember that. Like this game is fantastic.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know. Maybe that's just I don't play enough modern games and stuff, and I'm getting that with Hogwarts Legacy. So I'm gonna end the thought I actually was gonna have right there. I just don't play enough games to really.
You're becoming more of a casual these days. So
God, am I trying? It's hard, man. I fight.
I'll make a list of games you need to play.
I fight that beast every day. I'm like, why don't you jump on playing some Counter-Strike, some Valorant, some Rogue Company? Like, go in there and beat some kids and some competitive. And I'm like, no.
Just make a new account and get your elo real low and then jump in there.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, if that's it, then thank you all for listening to our top 5 most favorite games of all time episode. You can, of course, find all of the other episodes that we've done at BeHonestMan.com, where you can find things like Anchor, which have a list of all the episodes and all the different platforms that we do our podcast on. And you can follow us on socials, mostly BHM Pod or BHM Podcast, on things like Twitter and Instagram, TikTok, so on and so forth. Again, those are on the websites. And, of course, until next time, be honest, man.